passenger as well, Peter.
Yes.
Hi.
We have Mr. Will Smith, car specialist in the passenger seat.
And what are we in, Peter? What are we in?
Who declined the opportunity to drive this car because, quite honestly, he's lazy. It's more your era.
Oh, shame.
Sorry, we're trying to...
We've got to go right. So. Okay.
Right. So, that building over there is the Grimaldi Forum. We are on the streets of Monte Carlo. And I am sitting with Mr. Will Smith, car specialist. Hello, Will.
Hello, everyone. Hi. We are in, I should say, a 1949 Alfa Romeo 6-seat Passo Corto Supersport Cabriolet.
And although it's post-war, essentially what this is a continuation of the great pre-war tradition, Alfa Romeo tradition of having a 6-cylinder engine, 2.5 litre engine, and it's kind of really the last of that era, isn't it?
It is indeed. I mean, you know, you would say this was the last of the Alfa Romeos that had the body literally on top of the chassis, right?
Yeah.
You know, in that pre-war tradition. But of course, after the war, there was no money to develop and make new cars, so they had to revert to the older technology. And this is a perfect case in point of an early, you know, a late 40s car resorting to that old technology.
And it does have, because I love pre-war cars, and it does have, although it is just post-war, it does have that kind of lovely sort of pre-war feel about it, and the kind of Bakelite materials, the steering wheel and everything. Absolutely beautiful.
Is it quite light on the controls and the
It's
steering?
very light. I'm still getting used to this column shift gear change.
Yeah.
So here we are. You can see all the Armco
Onto the track.
The Lowe's hairpin is back there. So we're on the circuit now. Round the corner. That's where Senna had a little accident one year and had a sense of humour failure, didn't he?
He did. He didn't even go back to the pits.
Didn't go back to the pits. He just went back to his apartment.
Famous tunnel, this.
Very famous tunnel. Quite often you get a lot of sparks coming off the floor pan of the car, don't you, through here?
Was it Coulthard and Schumacher that had a big situation in this tunnel? I think.
Yeah, I think they did.
I think Schumacher ran into the back of him, just out the back of here. But to see them coming through this tunnel is something else.
Can you imagine the noise?
Oh.
Imagine back in the good old V10 days.
Yeah, and this is flat out. This corner would have been flat out.
Yeah.
Probably not in the historic cars that are going around this weekend. But it has changed a lot, as you say. Like, there's a lot of new buildings that have sprung up, but there's no mistaking that we are in Monaco driving around the track right now.
Absolute classic scene. Look, there's the harbour ahead of us. Lots of beautiful boats. Where would neither Will nor I are invited this weekend because we don't know anybody.
Speak for yourself, actually, Peter.
Oh, have you been invited to a super?
I have actually been invited on a boat this weekend.
God, I haven't. All right, well.
It's not what you know, Peter.
I'm off to KFC. Should we be
do
going
the
that
chicane?
way?
Yeah, we should do the chicane.
I think we need to, so this is the chicane, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the chicane. And we should probably talk a little bit more about this car for a second.
Yes.
1949, 6C Alfa Romeo. This car has been lovingly restored, and you can tell it's been well restored because it was restored a while ago, and it still looks really good. The paint looks really fresh.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful colour. It's that sort of deep, sort of Bordeaux burgundy colour.
Rubino, it's a really great colour, and it is an Alfa colour. Of course, it's the Alfa colour.
This is one of our colleagues' favourite phrases is La Dolce Vita.
Right.
Is it not?
It is indeed.
Does this car not personify?
It sort of does. If you were in Monaco in 1949, this is probably peak.
This is what you'd have been
flexing.
Absolutely. So look, yachts to our left there. They've got a very, very good vantage point for the racing. Lots of grandstands up here.
And they build this, of course, not just for the historic Grand Prix, but for Formula E and for the Grand Prix as well. It's basically a month of construction and turmoil for the residents of Monaco, isn't it?
I have actually run this track as well in my fitter days.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a surprising amount of gradient on this circuit as you climb up to Casino Square.
Yes.
Anyway, that's enough of that because we're not running.
But no, back to the car.
Yeah.
49 Alfa. This car's been beautifully restored. It's going through the auction actually tomorrow on Friday. It's guided 400 to 500,000 euros. And as you say, Peter, it kind of encapsulates an era that doesn't really exist anymore unless you're driving one of these cars.
And the thing is, it's comfortable, isn't it? It's beautiful to look at. Lots of admiring glances from passers
Sounds
by.
really nice.
Sounds great.
It's got that raspy six-cylinder.
And you just kind of feel like you could drive this for 1,000 miles and it would be absolutely fine.
You do.
I'm not quite sure where I'm allowed to go here, but I don't want to go that way, do I? I want to go this way.
Yeah. Perfect. Straight through. Straight through.
Not
through the pits. Straight through there.
I'm English, sorry.
He's looking for a pit stop.
Je suis désolé.
Okay, and we're on the start-finish straight.
Yeah. So the pit lane is sort of off to our right here. These are all the grid. You can see all the markings for the starting grid. Amazing.
And what you don't realise actually is that the start-finish straight is on a corner. You know, we're going round the corner.
Yeah,
here.
and it's on a slight slope as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know that sometimes they struggle to hold the cars completely stationary.
Yeah.
I am getting to grips with this gearbox now, you'd be pleased to know.
I can tell. A bit of double clutching going on. To your left, you'll see the podium there. That's where you'll see great displays of emotion over the years. And come on, let's talk about some of the history of Monaco, Peter, because this place is steeped in.
Now you're going to really test me.
Steeped in history.
Well, the important thing relating to the auction this weekend is that we're obviously selling Jody Scheckter's cars, aren't we?
Indeed.
The jewel of that collection being his Ferrari 312, which he drove, that actual car being the car that he drove to 3 victories in his championship year.
Monaco being one of them.
And Monaco was one of them.
Yeah.
So we're said, you have the opportunity to come to our auction and buy a car from the World Championship driver.
Yeah.
And nobody else has ever driven that car apart from him.
Which I find quite remarkable in a way. You would have thought a mechanic would have maybe snuck out at some point, but apparently not.
No. And it's got original seat harnesses in it, safety harnesses. It's an amazing bit of kit. But that in 1979, that car was hammering around this track to victory, which is absolutely amazing. There's so much Monaco history here, isn't there? Sterling Moss in the Lotus 18, the Rob Walker Lotus 18.
It's funny because there are a few drivers that stand out over the years as people that dominated Monaco. I mean, obviously Sterling Moss was a big one.
Yeah.
But when you think back to the more modern era, Schumacher was very successful here.
Senna
was very successful here.
What year was it that Mansell, was it 92? Mansell was in second place behind
couldn't
Senna
get past him.
and just
couldn't get past
for
him.
love nor money couldn't get past him.
No.
Right the way through to the finish line. That was an amazing race.
There's just so whenever I see the Monaco Grand Prix, there's something about it that just screams, okay, the sporting season has arrived and Formula One is back in Europe again.
It's a funny race, isn't it? Because it is the most iconic Formula One race on the calendar and has been running since the 20s.
Yeah.
But it's also weirdly quite often not that exciting a race to watch because you can't overtake.
Unless it rains.
And then very, very strange things can happen. But it is a very, very tight track and there's no real meaningful straight here, so DRS doesn't really do anything for you.
And you also you get the underdogs sometimes coming through in Monaco, I think, as well. It's a chance for some of the lesser performing
Olivier
teams.
Panis
won here, didn't he?
In a Prost, wasn't
exactly that, and you know that it gives that opportunity to drivers that they wouldn't ordinarily have because it just throws up so many different sets of circumstances from as you say, the track itself is so tight. You know the overtaking opportunities are virtually zero.
I don't think there's a track on the calendar which rewards qualifying in quite the way that Monaco rewards qualifying. So if you put it on pole position and you're in a decent car for the race, there's a good chance you're going to stay there, right?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect car. We chose the absolute perfect car.
I think we have. I think there's a lot of admiring glances for this. Any potential buyer for this car ought to note the look on people's faces, because I think...
Well, anyone who really also knows their Formula One history will know that Enzo Ferrari was the team manager of the Alfa Romeo racing team.
That's absolutely
back
true.
in the day.
Absolutely true.
And you could argue, and certainly if I was the owner of this car, I would argue, that this engine is effectively a race-derived, road-going version of a racing engine, effectively, right? And
yeah, I mean the six-cylinder 2.5 was an engine that they did a lot of competition with, and obviously at times supercharged.
Yeah. I love the dials as well. There's something about this era of design and
well, it's got a proper Art Deco feel, hasn't it? Even though it's a little later than that, but it has sort of got a lovely Art Deco feel to it.
But thank you very much for the tour, Peter.
Well, it's been a pleasure. How nice. What a nice treat. Just another crappy day in the office for us, Will.
Merci, monsieur.